There's one stock that is about to jump up in price. It is an NVIDIA partner, which is a big deal on NVIDIA's Global Technology Conference day today. NVIDIA stock jumped up a lot, over $200. And this stock, I think, is also going to benefit. It hasn't gone up yet, which is important. So they also are invested in by NVIDIA. NVIDIA has a stake in them. And they have a client, CoreWeave, that does AI infrastructure that has a lease on this company's data centers. This ticker is APLD, Applied Digital. They're projected to get $15 billion over the next 10 years from this NVIDIA linked company, CoreWeave, this company that manages NVIDIA GPUs and makes all the workloads work, so the LLMs work, so ChatGPT works. APLD is the ticker, and this is not financial advice, but this is looking very bullish.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
So this is the partnership. APLD got a 15-year lease agreement with this company that NVIDIA is also invested in. So, you know, like everything that's getting talked about, it all comes back to NVIDIA. But you know what? I'm not certain that you could just have known to and buy NVIDIA before today, because you didn't know what Jensen was going to say. So sometimes an event is a very bullish for a stock, sometimes it's not. And I think the smart thing to do is to look at other companies that are going to benefit. And I think APLD is in that category. So they're working with the hyperscalers. Okay, that's the buzzword of the next couple years, to build out this just armies and armies of GPUs. This one is in North Dakota. And they're getting up to that GW, that gigawatt, which is, you know, what we got to get to, multiple gigawatts. So as far as the connection, they're not just connected to NVIDIA, they're also connected to Cores, C-O-R-Z. And Cores, interestingly, has its shareholder vote just in a couple days if they're going to approve their basically a merger with CoreWeave. That's not quite the right word, but it's an acquisition situation. So CoreWeave is trying to figure out if they're going to acquire Cores. Cores has to agree to it. This is what happened back when the rumor became reality. It's definitely going to happen. Well, it's going to happen as long as the vote goes through. And now the reality is like becoming whether the vote actually goes through or not. So this is pretty much the price it's trading at, is pretty much the price they're talking about back here, around $20. So that event is one event that is important to keep an eye on to decide how APLD is as an investment. Also, just watching APLD's price, of course, is the number one indicator of buying demand. Notably, this is sort of the trader mindset. The SPY, the market went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. Big gap up over the weekend. And so APLD, you know, it's up a lot. It's definitely up a lot. But notably, it did move up, but not nearly as much. Not nearly to the same percent as the SPY did. Well, actually, it would be the same percent, wouldn't it? But if you look at some other companies as far as gaps intraday, you know, this is what we're talking about for big moves over the last 5 days. Another one would be ARM, right? Sold off today, but AMD for sure. big moves the last few days. APLD hasn't really moved yet, and these are sort of opportunities where it's holding, right? It's not like some tiny penny stock, that just sold off recently. I'm talking about a stock that hasn't moved up a ton, but also hasn't sold off. So it's kind of that Goldilocks opportunity, and it recently had earnings, and it does have that NVIDIA connection in more ways than one. It actually doesn't have a connection to OpenAI, except for through the NVIDIA connections I already talked about. Well, they are involved with this Korean group in AI infrastructure. I mean, look, Lisa Su, AMD's CEO, is cousins with Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's founder and CEO. So, of course, there's connections everywhere. But it's important to at least keep track of which companies NVIDIA has invested in versus which companies NVIDIA has partnered with, because that's a big difference in confidence level. And notably, NVIDIA has invested in APLD. So, it's not a huge investment, 150 million for NVIDIA. It's a pretty huge investment for most companies to make. But this is the data center that is then getting used by CoreWeave. So now the question just becomes, we know about all the connections. We know kind of, that the company has gone up a lot. And we know about these new data centers and how, it's not a ton compared to the gigawatts that get talked about. But the numbers still start to get pretty big, generating about $5 billion in revenue over 15 years for just one of their data centers. That's a big deal, and there's expected to be more data centers. Now, as far as recent revenue, it was pretty solid, and we can look at exactly what it was. But if you look at the chart, you can see that it was responded to well, which is kind of all we really need to know, right? We can see that the actual earnings were better than expected. It was still a miss, but not by much. And the reason we look at the chart more than what the earnings were is that, well, this is a pretty ugly reaction from Netflix, right? And yeah, it was a miss on earnings, but not by a lot, It seems like not by a lot. And then if we look at some other sort of crazy earnings reactions this earnings season, look at this. IBM sold off, then got bought back up, and then had a massive day, and then is continuing up, or at least holding. And this is an earnings beat that was initially sold off. Another important one, Tesla, similarly, sold off, reclaimed, and then now breaking up over that $450 whole dollar level. So I don't necessarily know, all of the ins and outs of how this earnings was received by Wall Street, except to say, look at the actual chart. It held up. And if we look at other earnings this year, they're doing pretty well, but that's CRS, Carpenter, they do the steel alloys, GM, holding up as well. But what's really going to be important is these reports in the middle of the week, not just Apple and Amazon on Thursday, but also on Wednesday, Meta and Google. So as those come out, that's going to basically be, trillions of dollars in market cap, sort of deciding the fate of the market. And if it's strong, APLD is well positioned technically to take advantage of that because, as I mentioned, it hasn't gone yet. There are some other companies that were in that situation, sort of, and then went today, Broadcom being one. Qualcomm recently had that AI chip news, so they were already sort of moving up. But as far as speculative names, they're already coming down. Quantums and rare earths are cooling off. Uranium as well, besides this little company that hasn't gone yet, it has to be APLD, in my opinion. I'm usually wrong a lot of the time. The best investors are wrong most of the time, actually. But when you're right, you're able to risk very little and make quite a lot. So when you compare it to CoreWeave, which it's very connected to, as we talked about, this is just a choppy mess. And so it has to be APLD in terms of opportunity right after this NVIDIA conference, knowing that the reaction to the conference was awesome. NVIDIA went up a lot. So that's the idea. If you like these ideas, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe. And if you want to take advantage of this make $1,000 in stocks in the next 90 days or your money back offer, if you're serious about this, you want to give it a real shot, head over to stockscommunity.com, or you can hit that join button now on YouTube and get these members first videos. See if it's for you. And I look forward to your success. It's risk-free.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.